Dungeon Crawler Network presents Tales of Tamriel.
Greetings and well met, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 108 of Tales of Tamriel, brought to you by the Dungeon Crawler Network, and of course, our sponsors over at patreon.com/Dungeon Crawler Network. I want to give a special thank you to our two newest Patreon supporters, Jacob Mueller and Michael Scar99 of Twitter. Thank you so much, guys. You are the best. Thank you for helping us keep the metaphorical torches lit, because that's what we do here. This is a special episode because we are fighting Khajiit, because she decides to be in every show. We are streaming live to youtube.com/Dungeon Crawler Network, as well as our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Dungeon Crawler Network. So we're going to see how this works as I throw this cat off here. Handy dandy Khajiit spray. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Khajiit has done nothing wrong.
Khajiit always does stuff wrong. That's why I have this official Tales of Tamriel. I'm going to put a logo here. Do you have a problem with Khajiit? Well, here you go. Tales of Tamriel Khajiit spray. Get rid of any pest Khajiit anytime they're around you. Ad. Got to throw that in there. All right. So, also, I've been messing with my audio volume a little bit. So, if anyone's having issues hearing me, please let me know. I'm trying to get my my volume levels to an area consistent with the host. Because I'm always loud, because that's how it goes. All right, I'm your host, Aggelos. With me, as always, Avi Optimal, the guy who's going to be monitoring both the chats and answering all of your questions.
Yeah, that's me right there. So no messing up in there, cause
no messing up. That's right.
Exactly.
Nice. Also, special shout out to our chat rooms, both on Twitch and on YouTube. Hey guys, you're the best. I see our first thing from Zealot is Isarii is hot sauce. So there you go.
Oh.
Speaking of, we
Nope,
have...
I forgot.
We have Isarii with us, the moderator over at TamrielFoundry.com, as well as the Errant Penman and self-proclaimed MMO hobo. How are you, sir?
Good. It's too early to be awake.
Oh, well, I don't know.
At least I don't have to wear pants for this.
You guys wear pants for this?
I said I didn't.
Oh, good.
I put on a shirt.
Okay.
Which is still an accomplishment for a Sunday morning.
Just a nice shirt.
Well, if there weren't rules on YouTube and Twitch, we could go, topless. But, hey, whatever. Whatever. Arcaneer in chat says, now your hosts are louder than you. Well, actually, that's a good thing, because normally whenever I edit this in post-processing, my dB volume is like twice what everyone else's is, so normalization is a total pain in the butt. So, yeah, it is what it is. All right, guys, let's go ahead and move right on into news, because we got a little bit to talk about this week. First off, I got a special note from our other co-host, Nate, who will be back next week, or should be, as long as, his house doesn't run away on him. But he sent me a message on my email saying that in a weird twist of fate, his real-world job posted something that's relevant to Tales. He works over at Bloomsburg, so, that's awesome. in the technology side, but they posted a news article in Bloomsburg. I believe it's Bloomsburg.
Bloomberg.
Well, I'm
no
trying to
S.
remember if he moved to a different
No
one.
S.
I'm so confused. Anyway, never mind. Regardless, it doesn't
Bloomsburg.
matter.
It's the Chinese publication.
Bloomberg. Okay, yeah, whatever. I'm not doing a shout out for them, other than they're cool. So we got news that Providence said to weigh options for video game makers Zenimax. More or less, what this is saying is Providence Equity Partners, the private equity firm focused on technology, media, and telecommunications, is exploring options for portfolio company Zenimax Media Inc. The buyout firm has held talks with banks about what to do with its stake in the developer and distributor of video games, including possible initial public offering or a sale. So, who said, a certain source who said he wanted to be, remain private here. Let's see here, going on. The business, which would probably draw interest from other private equity firms, could be valued at as much as $2.5 billion. No final decision has been made by Providence, or has been made, and Providence may decide to retain the company. So, now, more or less what this is saying is Zenimax Media, the parent company that controls Zenimax Online Studios, Bethesda Softworks, id Software, a couple others. That company is privately owned by a private equity company called Providence. Okay, and more or less what they're saying is they're considering either selling the company to another private equity or possibly opening it up to be publicly traded. So Isarii, let's hear some of your thoughts on this, because we were talking pre-show about this. I'm going to throw you right in there.
Okay. Well, I won't go over what you said you wanted to talk about, but I think, anytime you see a company being sold to private equity, it's kind of scary because you don't really know how it's going to turn out. Is it going to be something like the firm that already owns Zenimax, it's interested in growing it as a business, or is it going to be something more like, I forget the name of the equity firm that owns Daybreak Games now, where they're,
Columbus,
you kind of, come in, they're what people refer to colloquially as vulture capitalists. You come in, you kind of load the company up with management fees and just kind of extract the cash. If you can leverage it and then pay, your management fees with liabilities, by taking out loans to get that cash and then drive the company into the ground, getting as much cash back into you as possible. That's a way that people make money that could be really scary. I don't think it would happen with a company that's quite successful, but you never know. Because I think, what was the big toy company? Like EB Toys or something like that?
EB Games, I know that was one that got...
Yeah, it was KB Toy. It was something like that. One that was in every mall in America, that was bought by private equity, and then they loaded it up with leverage, extracted the management fees, and ran it straight into the ground. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But I think with, a company as prominent as Bethesda, Zenimax, all of those, they've got Doom, besides all of the Bethesda games that we know and love, that's not likely to happen. Daybreak didn't really have anything, when they were SOE at this point. They were kind of prominent back in the early days of MMOs as SOE, and then, EverQuest Next was kind of exciting, but didn't go anywhere, and that was kind of it. And then after that, they were just coasting on old EverQuest games and the tiers of Star Wars Galaxy supporters.
As I'm trying to get my cat out of here. Go away. Go away.
I just heard about this, so I agree with everything he says. That's where I stand.
Nice.
Oh, and an IPO could, I don't know. I worry an IPO could put you in sort of an EA situation where you answer to investors who don't really give a crap about the industry at all, and just want to see returns, and then start pushing things out the door very quickly. As I've joked before, I think it's great that EA stands for both Electronic Arts and Early Access, because you're pretty much getting the same thing in both situations. So those would be my fears.
Fears.
And I have no positives because I am afraid of change.
Nice.
Yeah, change is never good.
Well,
I mean, can you imagine a Bethesda game like Skyrim, especially, getting pushed out earlier? I mean, they're already so buggy.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it is not uncommon that one of these parent companies could also, as you said, take it and then sell off different assets to different companies as well, break the company up. Because Zenimax is a giant, the Zenimax Media controls multiple different child companies. I'm trying to think of the words here.
Subsidiaries.
Minions, whatever. So like you said, if another, depending on who gets it, they could look at it and go, hey, we're going to, I don't know, change everything. And we can make more if we split off, id Software and everything like that. Unlikely, but
Yeah, if we see them lay off everybody immediately, that's probably an indicator that we're headed down a dark road.
That we're headed down a very,
like what
very
happened
dark
with
road.
that's what happened with Daybreak there.
Yeah. The other thing is if they decide to go the publicly traded route, because ZeniMax has always been a private company, so they've not been under any mandate to share any financials. That's why we've never had sub numbers back before when it was a sub-only game. We don't know how many box sales. We only have theories from external companies trying to give us an idea of whether or not it is what it is. But if they go publicly traded, we would be able to buy shares in the company, and therefore we would then know what their financials is, which could be a good thing, and it could also be a very bad thing. Depending on how the internet takes it, because look at other publicly traded companies like Blizzard Entertainment, stuff like that, or NCSoft. That's another one, because they just released their quarterly financials, and WildStar's taking like a giant dump on itself.
CCP
again.
is another one too.
Yeah.
I look forward to the gaming media not knowing how to read financial statements as they report on these situations.
Yes.
Because that's what always happens.
Yeah. They'll look at it and they'll go, oh my goodness, sub numbers are down this much. It could be the end of the world. That's what we'll see. Zenimax is lost 2% volume this quarter over last quarter. Oh, the game's over. It is what it is. Zealot in chat, WildStar's coming back, damn it. If you look at their quarterly financials over the past 3 years,
they've still got the Steam release coming, which has helped a lot with other games in the past.
You know what the bar chart's going to look like? Like a whole roller coaster.
I like WildStar.
Okay.
I think it would do better if anybody had any faith in it as sort of a going concern, but we don't.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Nobody does.
No one cares. But yeah, unfortunate, sad for them. But it is what it is. That's how it goes. But that was our first little bit of news. Again, Providence could very well just not do anything. Go, you know what? We're just going to keep it again, and it will remain status quo. But it was an interesting little bit of news, and it's not a bad thing in any regards. The only thing that could actually even be bad out of this is if they sell to another company who then decides to break it up. But I don't know. Maybe I don't know if the company itself can have any pushback on that. That I'm not really sure about. I'm not sure how their situation works. I mean, if they're bought by another, like the investing firm, they could argue the terms, going, hey, yeah, well, if you're gonna cede us money and whatnot, that's great, but you can't break us up. Whatever their contract terms are. How that works, because these private equity firms don't technically own the company other than owning private shares of it. So they could drop them if they want or sell them.
Which is owning the company.
Yeah, but private equity firms, they don't necessarily, depending on how it works and the contract, they don't necessarily have. I'm trying to think of the words. Creative decisions on these kind of things. Like, they fund the money, but a lot of times the companies that are privately owned like this determine their own fate. It's like, yeah, you're funding us, that's great. You're a portion of our income and whatnot, but you don't have a choice in what we do.
I don't really think that's an accurate representation of how equity works.
You don't think that's accurate?
No. And remember, this is what I was talking about with the gaming media. First of all, I'm an accountant, and I work in finance and stuff like that, so I always start imploding when people talk about things like this.
Just randomly give false information.
Yeah, so equity is ownership. That's literally what it means. Like home equity is, the money you've invested in your home. So, if you have 100% or even just majority ownership, you own the company, you can really, just go in and fire everybody and do, with that kind of power, you can completely dictate the creative decisions that a game is going to make. Now, you don't always, just because you own the company doesn't mean you're an expert there. You don't want to start overriding the people that make the games. but you could. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, private equity, they're not providing revenue or anything like that. They're just owning the company.
No,
All the money would flow from private equity to the current owners, which is also private equity, and none of that, like from the purchase, would go into the company.
Here's a random thing for you. I'm just kind of curious. Zenimax Media owns all these subsidiary companies, and Providence owns them. Does Providence have any, like, that's the one thing when we were talking about breaking it up. If they only own the parent company, could they in fact touch any of the subsidiary
The
companies?
subsidiaries are all owned by the parent company, so think of it like the parent company owns all of the stock that is the ownership of the subsidiaries. So when you buy the parent company, you then own the subsidiaries through that relationship.
The funny part is I've actually adjusted.
It's kind of
my
like
money.
saying, if I sell you my car, will you own the seats in it?
Well, no.
Yes.
No, microtransactions, man. You got to buy that individually. There we go. I'm going to up my volume here in this mic. There we go. See how that works. Some people in chat are saying that I'm way quieter than everyone else, which is weird because normally I'm way louder, so I just upped it a little bit more. This may be a whatever. Yeah. All right, we'll see. We'll see how this works, guys. Let me know how it goes if I'm any louder. There we go. All right. This isn't my kind of conversation. Well, apparently it's not mine.
I could do this all day.
No.
I'll
No.
just sit right here.
It's not my conversation either. I'm just randomly talking out my butt. All right. We're going to get off of this before I sound stupider. And we're going to go into something else that'll make me even sound...
Oh, is it math time?
Nap time? Yeah, no, I like nap time.
Math.
Oh, math time. I thought we were talking
I can use a nap too. Don't
No,
worry.
we're literally going
No.
to just nap during the show. Like, this is going to be the entire... We're just all going to be sleeping on the stream. Eric Wrobel heads to the forums to talk about blocking changes with Dark Brotherhood. Now, the reason why I say math talk is I'm not going to go over this word for word because he does actually go through a lot of numbers to show his point. We kind of hinted at it last patch about people complaining about the bracing change, how bracing was being changed, that the flat 20% block reduction is gone. Okay. However, Eric hopped to the forums and was talking about how compared to live, he goes in and shows the base block. The base block between live and PTS is the same. The 25% champion point cost reduction is the same as live. He then does 3x purple block cost enchantments on your jewelry. Exact same numbers. Where it starts to change is the fortress bracing and defensive stance. He shows that all three of these, they essentially gave an arbitrary number here of 440, like block value. Whereas compared to the PTS changes to fortress and the defensive stance, you're getting 587. So you're actually getting more because of how it's stacking now compared to before. Constitution was also buffed.
The cost of all of those traits.
Say what?
I said, but at the opportunity cost of all of those traits.
Exactly.
So you're trading those damage effectively.
Right. Well, here's the thing, though. You're trading some damage from the traits versus where you were trading damage. But you're going to be regaining some of that because of the new.
Yeah, I
change.
was saying you were trading for damage from the Wrath talent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, true. If you just had damage on the traits beforehand, it would probably be shifted.
Yeah. Well, what do most people either use? They either use infused for higher stat values, which you still can, and it was infused and divine, so that you're getting bonus of whatever Mundus stone you were using. That's now probably going to switch to more sturdy in there because of the block cost. So now you're going to be losing some of your Mundus stone value, but you're getting a lot of the damage back if you were slotting for damage or whatever the case may be through the new bracing changes. Avi, your favorite subject, math.
No.
No,
Do that.
okay. All right, sorry, it's you and me again. All right, let's talk more
Yep.
math.
I don't want to talk about math.
We're not going to talk about math then. All right. But it's an interesting little note, which I added in here. So you guys can check it out. I'll have it in the show notes so you can see the link if you want to read all the math.
I think the key kind of takeaway was that up until the change he's talking about making now, one of the reasons Sturdy wasn't keeping up with the old bracing was that it stacked additively instead of multiplicatively, I believe, which just made it a lot less powerful, and they're changing how it stacks. So, yeah, the new Sturdy trait's just going to be a lot better than it is on the PTS right now, or was when it was initially released. I'm not sure if they've rolled out that change yet.
Excellent. All right, more math. We're done talking about that. So
Let's get to the good stuff, yeah?
the good stuff. You don't
Business
like
and math.
Business and math. Yeah.
No.
That was going to be the title of the show until I realized when people looked at that, they would just not listen.
Like, let's downvote this.
Yeah, it was just I already have hard enough time getting on Reddit with downvotes, so I don't need to put business and math in my titles. All right, we're going to move into our discussion topics because there wasn't a lot of news this week other than I know there's another patch on the PTS which changed some things. We're not going to talk about that in general because of patching changes, but there was a new patch on the PTS. We're going to move on to our discussion topics this week, and our discussion, we got two of them. First one's not going to be as fun. I'm just kidding. Community is one of the things we wanted to talk about. Come on, Avi.
Oh no, sorry.
You're part of a community.
I was all prepared, and I was like, oh, okay, we're doing this one.
No, that's why I'm switching it up, because I know you're prepared,
Thanks.
and I need to keep you on your toes. So if I let you do that one, as soon as that one's over, you're just going to be like, no, I'm done. So now I got to keep you on your toes. Community. MMOs, especially back in the day, and if you've read any of the Errant Penman, which you should, if you're not following the blog, you should do that from Isarii, because it's awesome, and I love it. We talk about the lack of a community feeling in MMOs nowadays, where everything is very solo-centric. Even, I think in guild chat, Isarii's in our guild, and one of the things I think he was mentioning, or in Discord, I can't remember where I heard it, but you mentioned that, you're like, yeah, so it's a much better game than when I last played it. It's still solo everything, it seems like.
They have group challenges that you solo.
Right.
Yeah.
Not even difficult to solo. I don't get it.
No. Especially for an MMO. And that's one of the things we really wanted to talk about. Community. What can we do in the game and even out of the game to encourage more community interaction? Because I know we actually got a couple members in our guild who actually came over because they were saying that their guild just didn't do anything. It was, it was kind of boring because no one wanted to do anything. And Wicked Wolf in chat, our community is great. I'm not saying our community members isn't great. I'm saying how are we going to, I guess I should clarify that. We're not saying community sucks other than the ESO live chat, but whatever. We're talking about the community in the game. How can we make community members actually want to do stuff together, right? That's the big thing that we're having issues with, is that.
Right. Kind of like how, one of my problems right now in-game is factions. Factions are kind of becoming this worthless thing out of PvP where, everybody who joins their faction just doesn't care anymore. People can't play with each other or go questing with each other because of these factions, which at first I thought was a really good thing. It was my favorite part of the game, having the 3 different factions, having the big war and all of this, but now it's almost on the line of with Orsinium, the Thieves Guild, the Dark Brotherhood coming out, where factions are hardly even spoken of in these new zones. It's almost like the war is just dead or at a standstill. I think I'm not sure how you guys would feel about this, but the idea of breaking factions for future DLC is something that I'd be kind of interested in.
I would agree with that. And Wicked Wolf in chat, factions have no place outside of PvP. Honestly, other than Cyrodiil, I don't see how even factions matter. I'm still wanting the option of being.
I supported factions back around launch when they were, when we were all expecting the game to sort of be PvP focused. We were talking about driving a bit of interfaction enmity. keeping the faction identity separate, and then we ended up with every race and every alliance. It's not a paywall they put in front of us, and you start, they just kind of eroded it away, and then PvP turned out to be a laggy mess, and it's gotten better, but it's just become a much less PvP oriented game than everybody was expecting it to be around launch, and now factions are very much this just vestigial feature that gets in the way of people playing together. And that's something I've been planning to write about when I get around to it.
And plus the lore behind it all just isn't fleshed out enough for somebody to be really interested in the faction they're playing. It's like, take me for example. I always found the Daggerfall as the most interesting faction, but I play EP and I'm strictly dedicated to EP. Why? Because that's where my friends play, which is a good reason within itself. But it's like, there's no, it's kind of like World of Warcraft, Horde versus Alliance, people are very strict with where they play, and it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just, they're very dedicated to it.
Right. Yeah.
And part of that, I think, is because there's the open world aspect of PvP in WoW, or at least there used to be a lot more of that.
Where there's still a flag. You could still, even on PvE servers, you could still flag.
Yeah, but they fixed Taran Mill and South Shore, for example. You quest a lot more separately than you used to, and you don't really hate the other faction like you used to, which is a little bit of a shame, I think.
Right.
One thing I'd say on the subject of community, by the way, it's almost kind of rough to explain to people that are new to MMOs. I found that we're working with different terms almost. I think a great example is you look at a game like Guild Wars 2, and they're like, we have a great community. We have the best community. I'm like, you guys have no community. People don't talk to each other at all because there's no reason to. You can just do everything without communicating with anybody, and it's very simple. And I know Guild Wars 2 fans are going to disagree with me here. Or, people be like, yeah, you have to join a guild. And I'm like, your guild is your community, and that is not what a community means. Like, or Reddit. Our Reddit community is great.
Ooh.
Which actually their Reddit community is pretty good, but it's although the most annoying thing about their Reddit community is how much time they spend patting themselves in the back about how great they are. But you should see it; it's pretty bad. Like every week, there's a shout out post where they're like, "Oh, shout out to how nice we are to people." But like that's not what people mean by community. We mean people coming together in game, doing things, getting to know each other, sort of having a sense. Oh yeah, this guild. I'm not in this guild. I don't know them, but I know who they are. Either in a good way or a bad way. Just having context for other players that you see in the world in terms of the game's community. And that's something we don't have at all. ESO is finally adding guild tags under people's names. Like, I'm glad we're getting around to these basic UI features now. I think that'll help a lot, even though it's tied to taverns, which makes sense. So I don't know. There's just I don't think there's much community in ESO at all, unfortunately. And, interdependence is quickly becoming a buzzword with all of the newer indie PvE MMOs that are coming up. And there's really just none in ESO. You can kind of do everything on your own character, all the crafting, every combat role, some of them at the same time. You can solo really well. You just don't need someone almost ever. And because of that, it's been designed. I would almost blame the consoles for that, just because I like to do that whenever I get the opportunity. But they can't talk to each other.
Right.
If they happen to walk right up to each other, they can use proximity voice chat, but that's about it. And when you're designing a game to work in that kind of environment, how much interdependence can there be? Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to talk about that type of thing with people that are newer to the genre, though, because they just have no idea how it used to be. I always like to talk about Star Wars Galaxies, where you wouldn't heal. If you wanted to heal, you needed a ranger to build like a camp in the wild, or you had to go back to a city for a hospital, and then there was a longer-term form of damage that you took in combat that was called combat fatigue. It's the like World War II, World War I era term for PTSD, basically, that you would have to get cured by going to an entertainer, which is bit insensitive maybe, but you would go to like a bar and there'd be an entertainer there, they'd be dancing and they'd cure you of your PTSD, and all this time people are interacting because they have to.
Right.
And you had this really, really social game with one of the best communities ever. And, that's not, yeah, I see people talking in the chat now. That's not how things are anymore, because there's no reason to talk to anybody and there's no reason to rely on anybody. And it's not, I hesitate to call a game like ESO an MMO. It is, but it's really just kind of a lot of people in a socially saturated environment playing alone together.
Well, I think the only thing that makes ESO an MMO in the classical terms is the fact that the world's persistent. That's literally the only thing. I do believe in chat said a couple things I want to hit on very quickly before I forget all of them. Ryan was saying about if by removing factions, if you did most of the quests, and I'm still working my way through gold, but if you notice there may be, a handful, less than 5 quests in the entire arc for a faction that actually addresses other factions. Ebonheart Pact being a little heavier on that than others, but I think I was doing one in Daggerfall Covenant. I think I counted less than 8 quests total that actually mentioned other factions.
Yeah, it's a big war within itself. It doesn't even involve the Ebonheart or the Dominion.
If they wanted to retcon the lore there, all they would have had to do is change those few quests that address the Aldmari Dominion or Daggerfall Covenant or the other 2 factions and make up some bandit group or whatever. That way I hear typing frantically. Someone's frantically typing. And I'm looking at Isarii down there oh, that wasn't me. He's doing it again. More typing.
Finishing my thought. Okay, we're good.
Good. You good now? You're good?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I moved my mic back because they said I was loud. And,
well, yeah, no, your volume.
Now it's right over the keyboard.
All right. So he's good with his thought. He got that typed in. That's great. They would probably have to change a little bit of lore, but if they actually would change some of those faction quests that actually announce the other factions, it would literally only be and those faction ones that announce the other factions only really, they weren't even main story. They're just kind of like look, I'm at a lighthouse and for some odd reason Daggerfall's attacking it. Okay, whatever. You could easily make it pirates and it would be a self-contained story. And that would contain the faction war to Cyrodiil only, which is pretty cool. I mean, I get the idea of why they did that in the first place, but when they started doing the Any Race, Any Alliance, they broke down a lot of the alliance, and especially with the cross-faction play with the Undaunted, they're breaking down a lot of that.
Yeah, I think they want to get rid of them, but they need. Sorry, I'm reading the chat.
I see. At least you're hot. Hey,
yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, thank you. This is my I just woke up face. That was distracting.
Yeah, he's lost his thing. Way to go.
Yeah. They're breaking it down, but yeah, I think kind of getting people in their, the shared versions of the overworld zones is kind of going to be the big challenge there. Obviously, you need some sort of scaling, which is tech we've been seeing them introducing more and more, and now they're talking about scaling content to you in the overworld. So I think this is something they're working on, but it's a challenge that will take time to overcome. So hopefully, I'd love to think they could get it done by Q3, but we're probably looking sometime next year before they can actually make sense of that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Cool.
And but I would like to say that this is something I've proposed way back in early beta. Feel free to go back way into Tamriel Foundry. I said as soon as they introduce the first one of the guilds, they're going to have to do scaling, and that's exactly what happened. Because because that's the only way it's going to work. Because you're not going to want to say you can only do the Thieves Guild at VR16, and you're going to have to make it work somehow. And scaling was the answer.
There you go.
Yep.
I would have preferred levelless, but scaling will do it.
I would still like the option of later on, because I hate the fact that my favorite story, the Ebonheart Pact, is 1 to 50. I wish that once you've finished silver and gold content, there was and the problem with this is it also kind of separates, but I guess they could do it with phasing, really. Cities would be phased, like everyone was in there, but like how it would work is after you finish silver and gold, all your zones went up the gold level. Because there already is a gold version of each one, And
Yeah.
that way you could go anywhere in Tamriel and it actually be a challenge.
I think there's a bunch of different ways they could do it that would be interesting. But it depends, how many calculations are part of it.
Or
Do
just
you
add
want us to like
scaling.
scale each mob up individually to the person that's attacking it, which would be basically downscaling you, but sort of cosmetically adjusting your numbers, I think is how I would handle that.
Right.
Or you could have people in the same zone without anybody feeling like they're being down leveled or up leveled.
Well, here's
It would
the
be
problem.
interesting. Or you could just have 2 copies of a zone and then have a travel to player to get into either the scaled version or the low level version.
As much as it separates the community, I would actually prefer to have the separate copy, because the upscaling, here's the problem with upscaling, and it's completely in the player's head. Because you're upscaled and all your stats are upscaled, when you're getting gear and stuff, you don't see much of a change because of the scaling factor. So you're not seeing like, oh, I got a new chest. Oh, I don't really feel much more powerful because I feel
Yeah, I
just
wouldn't
like
want to
did
scale the
before.
entire game. It would just be silly.
Yeah.
So I think downscaling is the answer, but some people are really sensitive about that for God knows why.
They don't want Guild Wars 2.
Yeah. It was great. It was like the best part of Guild Wars 2. They send you all the way around the world at any level, and the whole world is just this play space instead of just like the last 2 zones.
And
So,
that's awesome.
Bring that on.
No, I'm fine with that. But what they need
SWTOR's
to do,
doing it now too, and it works great there.
like what they did with Hrothgar before they made the change, the resource nodes, when they spawn, you have a 50% chance of getting either the highest level that you can attain or the zone appropriate.
Right.
Because you still need lower level stuff because everyone asks you to make stuff. But anyway, I think that would help with community.
Guilty.
Yeah, need low level stuff. There was one other topic that I really wanted to make, and now I just completely forgot about it because Isari's hot. That's what I heard. So
Yeah.
and now I'm just the show's over.
I'm distractingly attractive.
It's, show's over. Whatever. See you guys. No, I have no more point.
I'll just sit here like this for the rest of the time.
I know, and because this is actually, if Zenimax you're listening, this isn't really so much of a discredit towards you guys. You guys are actually doing a really good job with a modern MMO. This is a modern MMO problem, not just you guys. You guys have been trying really hard, and actually a few people in chat, I'm going to try to, Zakir's one, and the other person, I'm so sorry, I'm going to try Aquila, that's what I'm going to call you for now, mentioned how when sorry, you said the same thing, Hrothgar was like an amazing DLC because the dailies and stuff and the group bosses needed more than one person to do, right? They actually, and groups in chat would actually, hey, I'm doing this world boss, who wants to come with me? And you get like a full 24 people raid group. This is actually how I met Zakir, because I joined up. Zakir sent me are you the Aggelos from Tales of Tamriel? I'm like, yeah. And he ended up joining the guild and does stuff with us now.
And stole my shoulder.
Aquila. Did I pronounce it correctly this time? I hope so. Oh. I tried. You should know better. If you don't have like a simple name like John Smith, I'm never going to be able to pronounce it. So. Even when I met Isarii, I'm just sitting there going, okay, I'm like phonic of his name before.
I get some interesting. I thought it was pretty straightforward, but I've found over time, the more I interact with people, that it's not. People that play the like Rome Total War games are definitely like Isarii, and I'm like, I guess I can see it.
I always just Isar the second because 2 eyes.
Yeah, Isa the second.
But yeah, well, the problem with ESO is even our guild. We actually are now going to have events almost every night of the week. But and this is bad. It actually takes more effort, not necessarily more fun, but more effort with less reward to go with your guild than with just randoms. Like either using the dungeon finder for pledges or anything.
Not
like
if you're queuing as DPS.
I actually don't ever have issues. Like I get
Really?
DPS queues in like 5 minutes. Like
Yeah. Well, you only play at prime time though. That's true. I'll be on in the morning, weekday or something when I've got some free time, and I'll sit in the queue for literally like 7 hours some days. I don't know what's going on. It doesn't seem to do that as much now that I'm higher level. I think there might be some like it doesn't make sense since it scales you in the group finder, but I don't know. It seems like I had a lot of trouble when I was lower level.
Well, that's why it's good to be a healer right there, because my queues are like under a minute most of the time.
Yeah, I'm gonna start making you run things with me. This character needs all the skill points from dungeons. It's horrible.
Let's do it.
Of course, I've got like 30 skill points I'm not using.
Wow.
Because I don't use any. Yeah, no, I don't use any abilities in the Dawn's Wrath line as part of it. So I'm just like, oh, good. I only use 2 skill points in this line. I've got it all leveled up, obviously, but after that, I just took them all off because none of them make sense with stamina for me.
Nice. I'm actually talking in the Twitch chat right now too, which is pretty awesome.
Oh,
So many chats. So many chats. It's so cool.
Click, click. Yeah, double the keyboard sounds. This is awesome.
I know.
Yeah, I wish we could merge them somehow.
Yeah, right. You just need a. There you go, guys. Entrepreneur opportunity for a website to combine all the streaming platforms, Hitbox, YouTube, just in all the chat in one window. Just there you go. I don't know who's going to do it, but I don't care. But yeah, community. All right. What could Zenimax do to encourage community? One thing I thought of outside the game, and I know they're trying to do this to a limited extent, but it would be nice to see it happen in a more formal basis. They've done it a couple times. The Tamriel Beer Garden, they're doing an E3 event, the before E3 event. Okay, that's awesome. I would like to see a convention of some kind because I know
In Portland.
San Francisco, California.
Nobody wants to go to California. You guys don't even have enough water for yourselves.
Yeah, right.
Well, you guys can visit. I didn't say you can stay.
Oh, but I'd like to see a convention because a couple of these big games do conventions. Blizzard does theirs, of course. BlizzCon, they do that. CCP for Eve does one. Final Fantasy XIV does FanFest, which is really awesome. There's actually a few others. Why am I drawing a blank on it? Guild Wars 2 does a couple, but it's not official Guild Wars 2. It's actually community members, which we were talking about community before. Was it Festival or something like that in the EU? Is an event that goes on. But I would actually like to see a yearly convention from Zenimax of some kind.
From Zenimax, or what about just from Bethesda as a whole?
Well, Bethesda
like
as
a
whole,
like a Bethesda con, like BethCon or something along that line, you know?
No, I mean,
Like BE3?
BE3. Well, see, I still don't count that because it's not.
I mean a full-blown convention, kind of like how Blizzard does BlizzCon, you know? Because most people who, like me, I mostly play Bethesda games, you know? That'd be right up my alley.
Bethesda they are trying to be sort of, like I said earlier, a bit of a Blizzard-like company. They've got their MMO, they've got their card game, they've got Battleborn. Is that one theirs? The team shooter coming up that's being greatly overshadowed by every other team shooter.
Yes.
Despite looking the more unique among them. They're trying to get that online community going in a lot of different games. So maybe. But I don't know that they're there yet. Because so many of their great games are single player. Right. You don't need a Skyrim convention.
I would love a Skyrim convention.
Right.
Just saying.
No, I don't know. I think that would be great for building community. I know they're trying in some areas, but it's still kind of hit or miss, like where they're going to be.
One thing that they've been trying, though, that's nice is, well, it sounds like they're trying to hit a lot more conventions than they've been doing in sort of the post-launch scene, and they're actually holding fan events outside in like a separate venue. So, if you're in the Seattle area but you can't make it to PAX Prime, they're going to have their own like fan lounge outside of PAX. So if you go to PAX, you get tickets. That's great. You can do that. And if you don't, you can still show up and meet the team and have fun. Do whatever you do at lounges. For me, it's probably drinking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It all works. Okay, but that was my idea for outside the game. In the game, and it's a buzzword for indie MMOs, but interdependence of various people. Now, the one thing I really think it doesn't create much for social, but it does create. Final Fantasy XIV is another game that allows you to pretty much do everything on one character, right? But they started adding specializations into their game, especially for crafters and stuff like that. Like, yeah, you can be a max level weaponsmith, but they added specializations which lock you into one thing. And when housing comes out, I would love to see specializations in crafting that in order for you to build furniture equipment, you have to work with, like, oh, I don't know, I make beds. I can really only make beds. You know, this is what I'm good at. But in order for me to do that, I need someone who's a carpenter to make the frame. So you go to a woodworker who has a carpentry or whatever, you know, and that's what they focus on. So you actually have to interact with people in chat going, hey, I'm looking to make a elegant Breton bed. I need a carpentry specialization. I need a blacksmith who is good at hinges. I don't know, whatever. And you have to work with the individual people. And it's not so much. You could kind of eliminate the human factor with guild stores, like just throwing your stuff up there. But if you were looking for something very specific, it would require you to seek out the people who can do what you need to do.
Right, definitely.
So I think forcing interdependence on a game that's, you know, you sometimes just have to accept what the game is trying to be, and ESO is clearly going for the, you know, the test fans that don't have a lot of MMO experience and maybe don't even want that kind of experience. So as much as I'd like to be, don't let people leave town without a group, I think you have to keep that type of thing really light touch when you're trying to encourage it. But somebody in the chat, Sakir, is saying, you know, not much independence, but allow players to be greater together than alone, and there's barely any grouping now. I think that's true. Honestly, I think the game is worse in a group for 90% of it. If you try to group to quest, it's probably the industry worst experience in terms of that. It's the mobs are just kind of you steamroll them solo. Like I tried to group with my girlfriend, and it was just like me critical rushing things before she could get to them. And so that experience didn't last very long, and she didn't stick with the game. You know, but it's really unenjoyable to group with people in the quests. It's better than it used to be. At least there's some forms of shared progress, but you know, it's just not designed that way. It's so much better solo, and that's a big problem. I would love to see sort of group-based dynamic content, which would be a lot of work, you know, and it would almost be Guild Wars 2D, and I know like there's not a lot of community there, but at least then you'd have PvE that I want to do with other people beyond world bosses. That's the only open world stuff where I'm like, yeah, I could deal with a person there.
Right. Yeah, there's not
Like
really a
crack-
reason
like
to join up.
Yeah. It's just something dynamic that, you know, is fresh, repeatable, and that actually benefits from having people there. And actually make it hard.
Yeah, right. Well, they were doing a good job with Rothgar. Before we jump on that, GC Selden in Twitch chat actually made a fantastic comment about interdependence is fine, but you have to account lock things so you just don't make alts. So like with the crafting interdependence, you would have to, once you're locked into one thing, your entire account's that way. Because yeah, it is so easy to make alts, and with the removal of veteran ranks, it's even easier. Dolmens could be redone. I wish Dolmens were redone where it actually, like Rothgar, it requires a group of people. Whether or not they're actually talking, but it actually... Here's the thing. When people are in a zone, they don't talk because people just navigate towards it. But when you're like the first person there, maybe you shout out. Another thing I would love to see is what Guild Wars 2 did with their guild missions, okay? The bounty missions, where you have all of a sudden...
That's a good point.
Yeah. But in order to... Just like Guild Wars 2 with guild missions, you found them walking around, but in order to take on this, essentially, world boss that just randomly spawns somewhere... You have to be in a group and accept the quest, or a guild quest. If you did it with a guild, that's great. I mean, that would be great for guild community. And guild may be the way of doing this, to force people into guilds. Because
I would love to see something like guild missions, honestly. I think that would be a great addition to the game.
Yeah, you can't attack it unless you're in a group. Like, it's friendly to you, but you'll like be walking, wait a minute, that troll right there, that's a world boss. You have to get your guild together. Once your guild group's together, you accept the quest, and then you can attack it. But only your guild can attack it.
Yeah,
that would be awesome for community. Let people do it once.
Just
a day.
do a couple other types of content as well, like Guild Wars 2 did.
Yeah, exactly. Different content's fantastic, but having to activate it as a guild quest is amazing, and I would love to see that in the game. And you know, like you said, the reason why I pulled bounty is because it's probably one of the easiest things to do. But being able to get together and you know, almost as you know, I'm walking through the rift just farming, and all of a sudden I see the boss, and because you know they have random spawn times and stuff like that, and be like, guys, this boss is up, let's get together and do it. That'd be awesome. I'd like to see crafting stuff within a guild, like Final Fantasy XIV added airships into. Now, I'm not saying add airships. I'm just saying it was a crafting thing that crafters got together, and it took an insane amount of resources, but that was a crafting thing you could do. If they add housing and guild halls in the game, maybe when you get your guild hall, it looks like a piece of garbage until such time as your crafters get together and provide 100,000 pieces of ashwood to make the rafters or whatever. Thoughts?
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah. Great idea.
All right.
Nothing to add to that. Yeah.
Nothing to add. You summed it up. Great.
Things for guilds to do together beyond trials.
Yes.
Because with the casual focus, that's not much. And trading. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Trials
I think that
are
would be a big thing to try to add.
I love trials, but I'm a raider at heart, and I love that kind of content. But our trials night, which, by the way, if anyone was interested in doing some trials, Wings of Fate's recruiting for trials, because it's hard for us to get groups of people, because we do have such a casual player base, and the content's not easy, so people tend to, you know, they're flaky with attendance.
I'll get there.
Awesome.
I'm VR9 now on my new EP character. It's coming.
Good.
And I'm giving up on my making heavy armor work idea. So
are you really?
I'm not really giving up, but I hopped on the PTS just to test out some things for the sartorial meta, which no regrets there. Actually, I just realized not everybody. This is going to sound really pedantic, but people probably don't know that, or the fashion meta. So I went to test like different combinations, and I really liked the outlaw medium like more than any of the heavy sets with the shoulder helmet combination. I'm planning to roll with.
You gotta
So
look good while
I'll just
doing
do
it.
7 to 7 medium. Yep. I'm gonna be boring. It'll be Molakina, Bloodspawn helmet, 505 Hundings, and I don't really know what I'm gonna do with the weapons. Probably just crafted weapons.
Maelstrom?
Yeah, they look terrible though.
Depends what you're doing it with. The
Have
bow
you seen
is
the new? Have you seen the Abaz Watch Greatsword, man? It's so cool.
No, I haven't.
It's awesome.
I'm gonna.
I forget what the word for it. It's like a Kopesh, Nopesh.
Oh,
It's,
I have seen that. Now I know what.
yeah,
you're
it's
talking
that sort of Egyptian sword that looks like a hand scythe mixed to a sword.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And
Tiny
if you're
one of
not
those.
interested in real world history, it kind of reminds me of the Dothraki blades too,
Yes.
from Game of Thrones. So there you go. Since more people probably would know that than ancient Egyptian history, which is sad. But yeah,
I don't know. I've seen the Mummy. This isn't coming from my historical studies here. That's one of like, I know nobody saw Gods of Egypt, including me, but it was probably featured there too for the 3 people that went to see that movie.
You remind me of my wife Thais when we went to Gettysburg to see Rage. I asked her what the historical or the why Gettysburg was so special, and she goes, "Isn't that where Abraham Lincoln defeated the vampires?" And I just was like, "What?"
Wait, what?
Because her history knowledge.
That's an
sparked
awesome
from-
movie, though.
I know, I love the movie, but
Yeah,
she's like, "That's where he beat off the vampires, right?"
for
From the
people
South?
that aren't aware, it's Abraham Lincoln Vampire Killer, which is a Tim Burton produced.
It's
It's
good.
not a. It sounds like it's going to be a Sharknado-esque movie, but it's actually like really well done.
It's really good.
It's
and I
still
enjoy it.
stupid, but it's good stupid.
Yeah, it's good times. Good times
that's-
there.
My favorite documentary.
Yeah, exactly. My favorite documentary. All right. Guys, anything else on community before we move on? I mean, we gave a couple thoughts. Honestly,
Yeah.
kind of the highlights of all this is chat.
More interdependence, excuses for Isarii to drink, things for guilds to do together besides trials.
There you go. And outside events that are actually like a yearly thing I can plan for.
That was the drinking thing.
Oh, yes. Well, clearly. Everyone in chat's saying I have the best wife because that was her answer. But yeah, that was driving up. That's what she's like. Oh, that's where they feed the vampires, right? I'm just like, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah. All right. We're going to move on to our next discussion topic, which is probably, if you're watching on, well, obviously anywhere, Twitch, YouTube, listening to this on the podcast land, you know what our title is. And that's We're Going to Vvardenfell.
Yeah. I didn't play Morrowind, but yeah.
I didn't play Morrowind either.
I played Morrowind. I love Morrowind, okay?
Okay,
It's
this is
actually
all
my
you.
favorite. It's all me. All right. So nostalgia is going to be pretty real for me. But yes. If you don't know who it is, Dominoid73 from Reddit and now also writing on Tamriel Foundry, he actually did an amazing data mine article on Tamriel Foundry, but he also does Reddit.
Which is a great site.
Which is a great site. It is. It is. Even though they don't feature us, other than today.
Yeah,
I wonder.
trying to stay away from featuring variety streams,
Well, no.
largely unsuccessfully.
Just Tales.
Yeah, I don't know which of you stream or are good at it, because I don't watch
None
Twitch.
of us. So
Yeah, see? That's the issue. That's the issue.
this entire show is just whatever. Anyway. Yeah,
Anyways.
yeah. What's Morrowind? So is this going to be the DLC After Dark Brotherhood? We're actually going to talk about this. It's probably not. And there's a few.
Although
points on
maybe
that.
technically.
Maybe technically, but see.
But it won't be quarter 3.
All right, I'm going to show a little list here real quick for people, and it's not going to look like too much, so give me a second here. Hopefully my thing works like it's supposed to, and it didn't, because now you just see a black screen. Thank you so much, piece of garbage. All right, give me 2 seconds while I actually adjust this. You know, I did this ahead of time, and it happened every single time, but it's being stupid. But anyway, 2 seconds. I'm getting this back on the stream. That's not what I wanted. That's
Good job.
Definitely not what I wanted. There we go. Sort of. Sort of what I wanted. All right, as you can see on the screen right now, there's a little spreadsheet, which, you know, I love spreadsheets, and no one else seems to like spreadsheets, but I like spreadsheets. You're going to see a couple ID numbers. Index. This is actually looks like it just came like a dump from a SQL database. The thing that's really important to note here is the name of towns, the fact that there's some dells, world bosses, way shrines, etc., etc. Everyone probably sees that right now. There's a name of a couple towns, which we're going to look at a map later. This probably doesn't make sense for anyone who does not play Morrowind, but it will make sense when you see the map, so do not fear. You see there's going to be 2 way shrines, 6 group world bosses, and 6 delves from what they've shown. There's also a little note on there about a dungeon, which we'll talk about, public dungeons, and you also see on about halfway down, you can't actually see my mouse because I hid that, but about halfway down, you see where it says Player House 1, 2, and 3? Ooh.
Yeah.
All right. I'm also going to go to the map now, because the map's more interesting. So here's a map of
The player housing
Vvardenfell.
thing was the most exciting thing for me because I didn't play Morrowind. So I was like, oh, player housing will have portals in the open world and there will be multiple per zone. That's pretty cool.
And this is why we don't think this is going to come after Dark Brotherhood, because housing. The fact that they listed player housing in this makes us think that I think player housing is going to be its own DLC, kind of like a quality of life DLC. I don't think they're going to mix that in. That's going to be just something people get, right?
Yeah, it seems like the general consensus, and I know you might disagree on this one, I think it's you, is that we're going to get a free DLC quarter 3 that's going to be a lot of quality of life fixes, new things like kind of a wardrobe overhaul. Well, we're getting some of that already, but The
barber
barber
shop.
shop. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, the barber shop housing, things that can be monetized, by introducing additional microtransactions into the game and just kind of including a base model of those for free in quarter 3, and then I would expect Vvardenfell to maybe follow that up in quarter 4.
Right. Yeah, I could see this being quarter 4 close. Quarter 3 will I doubt, like you said, free. I think that housing will be something you have to purchase. I don't know. Maybe not.
You'll have to purchase it individually. They'll let you get a house and put some crappy stuff in it, and then sell deco packs.
Maybe. I really hope they allow us to create stuff in game. But anyway, that's beside the point. We talked about housing a bunch. I'm going to zoom in here on the map to show you guys. If you looked at that list that we showed on the stream before, there were a couple names of towns. And as you can see on the wider map, as I throw Khajiit off my desk again, as you can see on the wider map, there's a lot of red circles showing this. But you notice how the Red Mountain, which if you played Morrowind, you'll know that the Red Mountain that's a big thing. So I cannot wait to see the Red Mountain. But that's probably going to be cordoned off. But if you see all the red circles on the map, they're spread all over the place, including right here, Gnis, the one town to the west. We'll probably have that area. Balmora, which we've already seen screenshots of, at least to some extent. That was data mined a little while ago. Scroll down a little further here. We got Saran, Aldsotha, another Dwemer that I cannot pronounce, Balfell, Tel Branora, and then up here in the eastern side of things, Tel Fry, Tel Arun, Saedrith Mora, another Dwemer, or actually that's Daedric, a Daedric shrine of some kind, Tel Mora, Voss, and an unnamed location. And if you refer back to this list, again, you'll see delves, Voss as being a way shrine, towns, things of this nature. So we got a lot of stuff here. This is actually going to be a fairly large DLC, I'm imagining, as you can see. So I'm going to come back to our handy-dandy podcast now.
Well, yeah, they said, 6 world bosses?
Yeah, a lot of
other stuff. Yeah.
I think the Thieves Guild and the Dark Brotherhood were probably downsized compared to Hrothgar, just because they had to introduce a lot of new systems, basically the entire justice system, to make
removal
work.
of vet ranks, right?
And we probably won't see skill lines coming with Vvardenfell. I mean, I could be wrong, but I imagine there are some shared resources between the skills team and its implementation and world building in terms of just coders and stuff that move from project to project that can be shuffled back to okay, let's make a big world this DLC.
Right. Yeah, no. They pretty much did say that the average DLC going forward would be closer to Dark Brotherhood and Thieves Guild in terms of zones. And we've seen the zones were significantly smaller, especially the Hughes Bane zone was smaller. Gold Coast is larger, but not to the size of Hrothgar. Hrothgar was a very large one.
Is Gold Coast is bigger than Hughesbane?
It is.
Doesn't feel that way.
I like that, but I don't know. Like Hughesbane, I liked those zones. Hughesbane was good, but Hughesbane felt like another ESO zone, while Hrothgar felt like a Skyrim zone. It felt like Elder Scrolls for pretty much the first time in the game, because they brought some of that, but part of it was the size of it, and that you're doing a lot of travel. They put you in a central hub, which they continued in Hughesbane with the Boss Landing, and you'd go back to it a lot, and then you'd head out into the wild again, and then you go back to it, and you actually felt like you were rooted in the zone. You're like, this is our base, this is where we get things done, and it was a lot more immersive than basically traveling from quest zone to quest hub to quest hub, which is what the rest of the game was. Mournhold, for example, doesn't feel like a city; it feels like a quest hub with a bunch of lag. But Orsinium was incredible.
It definitely was.
It felt like a city that you were living in because you were all over it, going in different houses, meeting people, and then you'd head out into the wilds again. And I really, really liked the way that zone was designed. And I mean, Vvardenfell looked huge, so hopefully we're going back in that direction again. But
it'll be interesting to see, like, when Vvardenfell comes out, the shape of the zone will probably be like a giant U. just because Ash Mountain being locked off for a later time. Because,
Yeah, that's certainly something I could do is split it, which would be a little disappointing. But
I mean, if you
So
look,
do you think they would split it, or do you think it would just be one big U zone?
I honestly think it'll be closer to a U. I
Yeah,
really
just
do.
especially with the 6, whatever, all the way shrines and all the dungeons that they're talking about, kind of shows that this is going to be a very big area, kind of like Hrothgar. How Hrothgar has the whole top part, the whole snowy land, and then the whole bottom part. Obviously, it's very big.
Right. Definitely. As I'm trying to get my... There we go. I don't know why it's being so silly as it is, but it is. Player housing. We'll talk about that now. Sorry, you made comment that the player housing, they made there's 3 different plots that be shown. And I know at one point, they actually added, we were in Grotwood, okay? And to the far east of, when you first land in Grotwood, there is a manor that has a wall around it, right? And they actually added as a Thieves Guild location where you can steal stuff. I'm imagining it's part of a group of some kind. But when we first saw a couple of those houses, I know there's one in Deshawn in the lower eastern corner. I believe there's one in Alakir Desert. There's these houses that you can't get by the courtyard. And I was always seeing this as being kind of an open world type house to an extent. Like once you go through the front gate of the courtyard, it's phased to you. And if you don't own it, maybe it's locked, you can't get into it, there's not a lot there. If you do own it, you start seeing all of your decorum that's all over the place.
I kind of expect to see like a physical gate rather than a phasing thing where you can go up and press E to enter, and then maybe there's an enter party members, where they can give you those kinds of options a lot more smoothly. But yeah, basically similar. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's sort of like how the one in Grotwood is, where it is a, you hit the gate, and all of a sudden once you're in the gate, there you are. And that could be the separating line. Once you're into the courtyard, not like just an open courtyard you just run through, you actually have to interact and you go into a building, but it's phased to you if you own it or you don't own it or whatever, or your group leader, however that's going to work. So I like the fact that they're adding 3. There'll probably be one in some of the major towns. Balmora will probably be one. A few of the big towns will probably have houses that you could buy. So it kind of reminds me of the Skyrim model of housing, where you are going to have plots you buy, so the houses are already pre-built, rather than allowing you to build like. And again, maybe.
Yeah, I would imagine pre-built as well. I don't think I've ever seen
here.
like a sim style wall dropping.
Yeah.
In an MMO. My big thing is, I don't want it to be slot based like SWTOR or Lord of the Rings Online, because that is terrible. Which I think is how Hearthfire was, so that would kind of suck. Give us free placement. It's Star Wars Galaxies did it years ago. It was awesome. WildStar just did it. When they launched, it was great. Probably the best one we've seen yet.
Rift does that too. You can actually just drop stuff, resize, and I'm fine with not being able to. And I'm actually glad. I'm sad not, like, Hearthfire allowed you to kind of build, it was kind of pre-done, but you could choose a little bit. But the lore nut inside of me likes the pre-built house idea, because the house is then lore specific to the zone you're buying it in. Like, you're not going to see...
That's dumb. You're dumb.
No, I'm not.
Nobody cares about that aspect of the lore.
I do, because it would annoy me, especially if they had like an
You're the only
housing
one.
Concept. I'm getting trolled here. I like how they if you buy a house in a Dunmer city, it's gonna look like a Dunmer house. It's gonna fall
on the outside and with the walls, but as it comes to the interior, like the house, the bed and everything, then free range.
Yeah, once you're inside and it's yours, it should be free range. It just allow you to do whatever you want.
But I mean, I agree with the outside aspect. Obviously, you don't want to see a big old Breton home right in the middle of Balmora. It's like that wouldn't make any sense at all. So,
I know. Californians keep doing that in Portland, and it's awful.
UO had it in
Timers and
1999
everything
with the
was
housing
pumped.
where free placing of things. It's true. I didn't like when they added, I think it was Samurai Empires, where you could build your own, because then you just bought the plot and you could make it. You saw all sorts of random whatever, but I didn't mind when they had the pre-done houses that you could buy. I need my handy-dandy Khajiit spray, because my cat will not leave me alone. I'm going to sit here with it. But yeah, no, we need to have free range housing where you can put wherever you want. Like when you own it, it's an empty house, and I don't want to see Skyrim's housing, which was a lazy attempt, where you go talk to a guy and you buy a bed set, and all of a sudden it's just thrown in whatever random room. What if I didn't want it in that room?
Yeah, that was terrible.
Yeah, it was really, really bad. James, you can actually, yes, you may post. You should, yeah, there we go. James, go ahead. You can post in chat now links, or you should be able to.
But not the photo bucket.
But not the photo bug. No, I don't care. Don't bother me.
It's 2016.
Yeah.
people still use PhotoBucket? What?
I know, that's what I just said. I haven't used photo bucket in like 10 years. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, I was a little surprised at that myself.
Let me log onto my MySpace real fast.
What? I'm actually looking at I like the housing floor plans. Yeah. See, yeah, if you're in chat right now on YouTube at least, James Harvey posted a photo bucket of his UO house showing free placement of items, and that is what I think all of us are looking for: the ability to, as I just sprayed my cat, the ability to free place stuff, to make the house our own. Because any of the houses in Skyrim, the only thing that made it feel like my own was the fact that I could decide what items I stored in what containers. That was it. That was the only thing that mattered. And it was not a fun aspect of gameplay. It really wasn't. So,
Yeah. I want to be able to. I want building items too, like not just when you're in the house, make it open and let me sort of just start planting things down to build my own walls and barriers, and
yeah.
I want free reign of all three axes where I can just move things inch by inch up the wall and rotate them, and that was just something that I'm used to because games were able to do it like 10 years ago. So don't give me SWTOR's crappy slot-based housing.
Yeah, right. No, that's just lazy, and it really, especially in modern WildStar housing. As much as I don't care for WildStar, their housing was top notch. Rift's housing is top notch. I mean, it's not so free range. Like you buy a sliver or whatever it is, and it's an instant zone that it's just pre-done. But you could. Once you put stuff in there, you can resize things. It's really, really cool, and that's how it should be, honestly. The U-based zones, the fact that when you looked at that first list of things, it was showing that all those... I really do think it's going to be one zone, like one really big zone, which makes me think they've been working on this for a while, because Vvardenfell, like... I have a lot of nostalgia from playing Morrowind, okay? And it felt huge in that game, and it should still feel big. I hope they don't shrink the island to make it fit a DLC. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't even mind if it was sort of empty, frankly. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the way MMOs kind of have like a trail with pockets of quest mobs, and then, I mean, yeah, don't be afraid to leave a little bit of open space. Just that brings value.
It does. Yeah.
I think travel time is greatly underrated. Like I think most people who played Skyrim know one of the best ways to really enjoy the game is to first get a mod so that your mount can be summoned to you, and then never use quick travel again.
I didn't even do that.
Ever.
I just never used quick travel. I walked everywhere.
They have a very nice way shrine mod too. So if you want to add way shrines like they have in Morrowind into your Skyrim.
No. The whole point of this
nobody
is
wants
that you don't use way shrines.
Well,
yeah, remove the way shrines.
Yeah.
No, I mean if you're talking vanilla Skyrim, no, that's boring.
No,
I mean,
that's awesome. That made the world feel huge.
I mean, if you play my Skyrim, then yeah, a modded Skyrim where it has 500 added random encounters, and you're not just walking around the world. It's fun for the first 300 hours. But if you're somebody like me who's played, over 1,000 hours of Skyrim, it's like, no.
Yeah, I don't think most people have played. I think the first 300 hours is like a pretty good delivery on that.
Makes sense.
That's how much expectations I have for Elder Scrolls 6. So
convenience is a problem. That convenience in games is a problem because it makes I can jump in and do whatever, but people get bored then.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
I don't know if you've read. I link it a lot in my blog, so maybe you have. But Professor Richard Bartle, which is the guy that designed the Bartle test, I'm sure people recognize the name. He has an essay he wrote called "The Decline of MMOs," and one of the great things he talks about in it is kind of the way players don't understand what makes a game good. They'll cry and cry and cry for a feature like fast travel or flying mounts, and then not enjoy the game once it has it, and then leave, and then say it's and then misattribute the reason they're leaving. And, you just kind of have to be able to ignore those types of things because it makes the game better, even though it doesn't make it more convenient. And then, I don't know. And then there's always some guy in your forum that's going to say, but more choice is always better, which is something I have a post about on my end, which is completely wrong. And more choice is not always better.
Choice. Well, the idea is that you have the choice. You don't have to use fast travel. It's just an option.
Yeah, exactly. Which is a stupid response, as I'm getting to, because exactly. When it's not like these choices exist in a vacuum. It's not like my party. If I'm going to let's say dungeons don't have fast travel, we're going back to like BC WoW. We've got flying mounts, and I'm like, yeah, I could ride my ground mount all the way there and really experience the world and be immersed in the journey and feel like I'm going somewhere, or I could hop on my flying mount and zoom over there in 2 seconds while everybody's waiting on me because they're all doing that. Which is going to happen. And one of them leads to a much better game than the other.
Here's also the issue. The idea of the choice that you just mentioned. Yeah, you have the choice. But who's going to group with the dick who decides I'm walking there when there's fast travel? Is your group going to wait on you?
The existence of one option can override the validity of another.
I thought we were still on Skyrim here. Are we back to ESOTU?
Oh, okay. No. We're talking about
we're talking the
yes.
meta idea of...
Yeah, which is that more choice is not always better. And I really think
I meant that as in the single-player perspective.
In
it's
single
like
player,
Skyrim. It's like just ignore it. It doesn't matter. But you're absolutely right if we're talking about ESO.
Yes. Yeah. Now
we're on
okay,
ESO.
Now we're on the same. Okay.
We did jump.
We're all in the same tome right now. We're good. Yeah, it's the whole idea of the convenience factors end up killing games because then people race to the end, they're done, and they're out. And then it doesn't give you the sense of exploration. Look at Witcher 3. I'm trying to remember. Is there fast travel in Witcher 3? I don't think there is. I don't think there's any.
There is.
Is
yes,
there?
There is. Yeah, you go to the random little signs in every single town.
Oh, you're right. You still have to walk to one of those, but it's still a matter of that feeling you get when the world is large, when you're standing up on top of the hill and looking out over everything going, wow. Who cares if most of it's empty? Like, I honestly don't need a monster every 3 feet. Like, Witcher did great. Like, you'd be walking around, you might not see something right away. You're walking around, it's pretty... all of a sudden you see a wolf or something, and you're like, uh-oh, here it comes. But it doesn't have to be as densely packed as that. If you make it large with smaller grouping areas, that's awesome to me. I like that. They need to make it grand because Vvardenfell is Morrowind. Like it has a lot of nostalgia for a lot of players. Even if you went to the original Bethesda forums, people were saying how they were voting what's the best Elder Scrolls game, and Morrowind came out on top, had more votes than any, because of that was not just what a lot of people started with, but that's what really kind of solidified Elder Scrolls as an Elder Scrolls game, which made it feel like, oh wow, here I am dropped in the middle of this huge, gorgeous world. Gorgeous being subjective for 2000 era graphics, but it was still something that was really neat. Like, you walked around and it was just, wow, where am I going?
Let me seg back real quick to what we're talking about, just because I see the chat's going pretty well right now. I think the thing that players often don't understand is features don't exist in a vacuum. you have an ecosystem that creates a game, and inserting one thing or removing another can drastically affect the way that players experience that game. And most players, all of us probably to some extent, don't really fully get what the impact of, introducing one thing or doing another. And little things, we talked about interdependence earlier, that can seem like a little thing, but as far as, rippling off to having effects on the game's community just by making you go to talk to another player to do one thing instead of being able to do it on your own can be huge, even though it doesn't seem like it's going to be.
Right. Well, I mean, you talk about the ecosystem right there. What is it? There was it's random, but Australia, there was a frog that they released to eat a certain beetle. And because it was the only frog in the world that would eat this beetle. And, hey, when they released it, it was like, hey, it'll eat all these beetles that are a problem. Until the frog got released and went, I could eat that beetle, but there's a lot better things. So you ate everything but the beetle.
Yes. Yeah. That is the metaphor I was making.
Yeah. I love this guy. He's just got to come back.
It's good. No, it's good that you explained that.
I
just want to use my Kappa face.
Yeah. I don't care. No, I like being trolled. It's cool. It's cool. But yeah, when you add certain, where was, like, even in WoW, where was the shifting point for people? Most people will say, like, a lot of people left after Wrath of the Lich King, but what fundamentally changed that drove people away? And one of the things I think that drove people away was when they started doing they started adding the convenience factors, the instant, like, the group finders and things like that.
Group finders being ported to dungeons, flying everywhere, flying in general.
Because they added flying back in BC, but this world still felt larger because of it. They started removing group challenges in random zones. Like, there was no
group
longer
quests gone.
Yeah, group
basically
quests gone. Yeah, they started removing it to make it more solo friendly, and that up until that point, WoW was in an increase. So before they even added those features, people were flooding to it. After that point, that's where it kind of maxed out, and then it started trickling down. I'm not saying that's what lost it, but every single game had a point where when they added something, the population shifted from a growing to a shrinking. WoW died for me when they mutilated druids. Everyone had a shifting point where they changed something that fundamentally changed the game as a whole. And with MMOs, a lot of modern MMOs, they lose that community feeling, which we talked about earlier, where people are playing MMOs like single-player games. That's why people leave when there's no content, because they did it all solo. They don't have the community holding them together. Even with, I'm sure, a lot of people in our Dungeon Crawler Network community, a lot of people are there because of the community that's there. A lot of people have, quote-unquote, finished the game already, but they're there to hang out and do the events. So that the community creates, and that's what MMOs do. And somehow or another, we shifted back to our previous one instead of talking about Morrowind. Did anyone else have anything they wanted to mention here before we move on? No. So yeah, main thing, we're heading back to Vvardenfell. Looking at the map on Tamriel Foundry, you'll see quite a list of stuff. Oh, I almost forgot. There's a couple other things. 2 more dungeons are being added. I'm actually going to pull this back up, hopefully. We're going to Vvardenfell. Yes, there it is. Where is it saying here? They already previewed the Clockwork City, which was pretty awesome. To be honest, I didn't think the Clockwork City was on Vvardenfell. I actually thought it was somewhere else. But anyway, that's beside the point.
Tectonic shift / the Kime.
I cheat Chim. That's how it goes. 2 new 4-player dungeons, the Runes of Mazatun, as well as... Where's the other one? They just said it on here, and I completely lost it. Why? Oh, they actually just said it on that list somewhere. Where did I pull that list up? Dungeon Cradle of Shadows, which will probably be a sort of like Crowswood, a pocket of Oblivion. So those are added as well. So we'll get 2 new not public dungeons, group dungeons, which are awesome because I know all of us who do pledges and stuff, their 4-man group dungeons are fantastic in this game. Like, they're really good. So there we're going there. Of course, some people were asking earlier about when we think this is going to show up. Zos has already previewed 3 other zones and dropped massive hints coming at the end of the Orsinian's main quest about where we're heading next. Privately and somewhat publicly, Zos has been pumping up the big news that they're going to be talking about at their Bethesda E3 event on June 12th. So we'll actually probably hear what the next DLCs are at that event. I would imagine we're going to hear what Q3 and Q4 are at the BE3 event on June 12th. So, yay. That's roughly about a month away. We should start seeing that. Anything else?
Yeah, I got a little something.
Okay.
So it says on the Wikipedia, this is about Clockwork City. The Wikipedia says Clockwork City is unknown, but it is thought to be located in Morrowind's southern swamps. Another source says that it's located underneath Ebonheart. Think of how interesting that would be if the whole time it's underneath Ebonheart in Stonefalls.
No, yeah, that would be really cool. Like, yeah, that's the thing.
crazy.
I didn't think it was in Vvardenfell. I actually thought it was away. Because the only, of the Tribunal, the only one who was actually on Vvardenfell is Vivek. Vivek and his Vivek City. Mournhold is Amalexia, and the Clockwork City is an unknown location, presumably underground. But I thought it was on the mainland, which is Southern Swamps. Yeah, it's somewhere on the mainland, Morrowind, not Vvardenfell.
Right.
All right, guys, it's time for our gameplay. What have we been up to this week? And Isarii, since you're our guest, you get to go first.
Oh, great. I don't remember what I did. Oh, I played the entire Rothgar DLC, which was really good, just so I could talk about it. My experience was a bit jaded by the fact that I was trying to level my fighter's guild skill line to 10 on the new character, and there was, like, no one dead there, so it was the worst DLC ever, and I hated every second of it. It was great. And they should do more like that instead of making them small. Yeah, that was what I did. I also, and drinking and fishing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I actually
Learned how
would
to fish.
rather they change their DLC thing, like you said. How about you do one big DLC every 2 months rather than these small ones, or every 6 months or whatever, and then maybe do a quality of life DLC in between. I would much rather have bigger zones like Rothgar, because Rothgar was awesome.
Right. I agree. Abba's Landing, or Hughesbane, or whatever it's called, was sort of a disappointment to me out of the city. It's like the city Hughesbane is very nice, but out of it, it didn't interest me too much. Nothing was there.
The saving grace of that entire DLC was the fact they reused existing Tamriel to go back to complete part of it.
That's
Same
true.
thing's going to be with Dark Brotherhood. You're going to take marks all over Tamriel, which, in essence, expands it out.
See, in Dark Brotherhood, the Gold Coast is sort of the same way. You know, it's 2 very interesting cities that are huge and really fun to be at. But when you get out of those cities, there's just not much there. I mean, me and Ark were on the PTS, and we ran from corner to corner, up and down, and you know, we did it in minutes.
You would be where the people are at.
And might I just add, you can't see the Imperial City in the background of the Gold Coast. Shouldn't it be there? They say you can see the Imperial City from all over Cyrodiil, so just throwing that out there.
Zosh, you made a mistake.
We explored every single corner, and it is not.
The Gold Coast exists in a dragon break.
I guess so.
Ryan, will they ever leave Tamriel? I honestly think ESO has years worth of stuff, because just the mainland Tamriel that can be unlocked, they also have all the Daedric realms. We've seen part of Cold Harbor, but even if they only just did a zone that was of similar size, they still have 11 others. Is that what it is? No, 15 others or 16 Daedric princes. To see all of their realms would be amazing. And then there's other areas that we could see during the time zone or timeline of this. I'd like to see Old Admiris. I know it's probably frozen over, not much to it, but
I don't think there's anything there. Just like where the red guards came from, I'm pretty sure it's completely sunk. I think the only
Blackreach.
sunk.
An entire Blackreach DLC.
Well, that's what I thought Murkmire was supposed to be. But yeah.
So the only place we'd actually get to see would be Akavir, and I think that they will eventually do it because I don't think it's a road that the original Elder Scrolls games are ever going to go down. You know, like I don't think we're ever going to see. I think there was a big conversation about this before on Threads. I don't think we'll ever see the Elder Scrolls Akavir.
No.
I'm pretty sure they'll stick in Tamriel all the way through a good amount of these single-player games, which leaves it open for ESO to explore.
Avi, what have you been up to this week?
What have I been up to? I hit VR 14.
You were also VR 14, huh? I thought you said you were done. Yeah, every time you're like, I'm done leveling. I'm done. I'm just waiting for Dark Brotherhood. I'm like, well, yeah, that's like a month away. And you're like, no, I'm done. VR.
I've been doing that too. I keep telling people, yeah, we'll just get me a new set of gear that you can make me, and then I'll just wait. And the Dark Brotherhood will probably come before I need a new one. And now I need another one again.
Dark Brotherhood is when?
Craft me gear.
The 31st or something, 30th or 31st. It's the end of this month. You still got 2 weeks, Avi. 2 more vet ranks.
I'm already 3/4 of the way to VR 15. So
okay,
yeah, I'll
it's like
probably
a day and a half of good play.
Are you actually going to? I just want to hear this because every show you're like, I'm done leveling. Are you going for VR 16 before Dark Brotherhood?
Yeah.
Okay.
Only because I'm not. God, the word's zoning out of me. Attribute points or whatever. You get one for every veteran rank. So I don't know if those are going to be given to you.
Yeah,
they will be.
They're just moving those back.
They discussed it in one of their.
So if I'm only VR 14 and they go away, when VR ranks go away, they'll give me 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you also you got to remember the champion point thing that they're giving too. You might actually get more champion points because of all your VRs, but.
Well, I think it's only for your highest level character.
Yeah, I think it is, but.
And it's 40, so
just keep going.
I'll be at about 500 once I get that.
Just do it.
I'll keep going. I'm gonna get it. I'll get VR 16 so I could wear my nice new jewelry and.
There you go.
Get me some new
speaking of jewelry, how's the Dark Lord?
I think she's doing good. I don't know. I don't have emotions anymore. Apparently, people say my emotions are gone because I do not have a soul.
Oh, she sucked it out.
Yeah. First, it was like Molag Ball. As soon as I got it back,
it's gone again.
Yeah.
They did discuss how, and for the people in chat who are asking, the 1 to 50 you will get it. I think it's every 5 levels they're giving you 2, and then for every 10 it's like 3. They're gonna give those extra 16 points out.
It's in 1 to 50 in some sort of convoluted way.
Yeah, it's weird how they're doing it. Like every 5th level you get 2, and then every 10th level you get 3. You'll get them. Don't worry.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Besides that, I've been saving up my gold keys. Been trying to do them.
Up all night to farm gold keys. I got you.
I've been saving my gold keys too. I have almost 3 of them.
I have 1.
I was gonna say I have about 3.
You guys want to do the pledge after this?
Yeah, right.
Right? Might as well. We're gonna need them because apparently you get a monster helm or you get a monster shoulder pretty much guaranteed in gold.
Yeah, and
gold chests,
really high on silver. So.
And it's also really high on silver.
Yeah.
Oh, I've been spending those.
No, it's even higher.
No, save
on
everything.
silver.
Yeah. Sorry, needs his Molag Kina shoulders. It's like
I already have like 8 pairs of those.
I have like 3 pairs of those.
Yeah. Well, I don't.
Well, I need just throwing it out there. No, I need Ancient Guardian, so I'm right there with you.
I assume they're not tradable, so I don't care.
They're not tradable.
Yes, they're not tradable.
Whatever you do, don't get rid of your well-fitted. Because apparently that's a thing now. Because well-fitted is changing.
It just gives you dodge rolling, right?
Yeah, but when you really max it out, like you can dodge roll. Like honestly, well-fitted may end up being a pretty big PvP thing.
Yeah, PvP thing. Yeah, for sure.
We'll see how it does with Pen, but a lot of people are talking. I've heard someone say they're probably rolling with a full 7 well-fitted.
Yeah, they just want to dodge roll their life away, you know.
Everything, yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, dodge
they're bringing
rolls,
back infinite dodge rolls.
Pretty much.
Pretty
yeah.
close, yeah.
That's what it is.
If you played a stamina character with 7 well fitted, yeah, you're dodging a lot. And if you think about it, dodge roll is the best defensive because you're completely immune at that point. Nothing hurts you.
Yeah.
Blocking, you're just reducing damage. Dodge roll is like the perfect thing because it completely immune. So, anything else, Avi?
Let me think. I don't think so. I've been questing. Oh, I finished the main story. So I finally got to fight Molag Ball in good graphics.
Spoilers.
Spoilers, yeah.
Spoilers. So sorry. Fight Molag Ball, people. Who would have thunk, you know?
Who would have thought the antagonist you'd actually, face him?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But ESO has such a novel and unpredictable story.
Of course. Oh, well, that happened. I saw it in good graphics. I took 500 screenshots, so I hardly paid attention to what was going on. Just like most people in real life, they go to a nice place and they don't just enjoy it. They pull their camera out and look through the screen. So I kind of did that.
All right, since he's holding his pet, I gotta hold mine.
Mine's better, you damn cat people.
Mine's a Kijiji.
Yeah, I don't like cats, but pets give me allergies.
My cat's awesome.
I get like a nice turtle or something.
She's looking at me like, "Why'd you put my paw in your mouth?"
It's like, put me down. Put me down.
Now
It's
she's
like,
never
now,
put me
it's
down.
like, now you want me.
Now
Spray
you
me
want
with a
me to show
spray
me
me with a
off.
bottle for the last hour and 30 minutes.
No,
true.
not a Doge, Chad. It's a corgi.
Yeah.
And he refuses to look at the camera.
She does
Oh.
sometimes, but whatever. I don't know. All right. Well,
That's my
Seems
game.
bothering
How
me.
about you, Aggelos?
Well, I had to prove Avi wrong. But first, before I do that, I got to play with Ace a little bit. We actually finally finished Ordon. Now we're in Grotwood, which...
Have fun.
The one thing I did like about it, which I'm really happy about, is the first town you visit, Haven, starts out as occupied. And after you finish the quest, you take it over. And it's friendly to you then. I actually like that. I wish more of the game acted that way, to an extent, because of phasing. But it felt nice to... In other ones, when you've rescued towns, like in Ordon, I've rescued 500,000 towns. Like, every town I came across was in trouble. But after you saved it, the only thing that really changed was now there's just Ordon Marines walking around. They were walking around before, but they were fighting monsters. Now they're just standing there. It's still burning, it's still whatever, but,
Or you get those weird towns that are taken over by bandits, but the bandits are just standing there and they're highlighted yellow. So it's like you can attack him or you cannot,
Yeah.
but they don't mind. They don't mind you being there, stirring things up at all. It's like, oh, that doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
So we did that. So that was nice. So I ran with Zephin and Nerdman and Linway, and we were running Veteran White Gold Tower. And we did it like 4 times in a row the one night after pledges. We did all the pledges, and then we're like, hey, you want to do Veteran White Gold Tower? And it's like, hey, why not? So we were going for the Undying, and the first time Nerdman effed it up. At least his was a little better. Second time I effed it up at the final boss. As I killed the one guy standing there, and I just stood in it, and I'm like, it's not good. Instant killed me, and so that sucked. And then Zephin did it too the next run, and it's like, are you kidding me? So we just were like not getting it, and I think in chat, Avi's like, yeah, you're never gonna get your helm anyway, because the other runs after the third run, it was already like midnight, but we had it down to like 15 minutes or something like that, because I ended up getting the speedrun achievement, getting the achievement on planar inhibitor not to allow anything to spawn from any of the portals, and we did get the Undying on the 4th run. And when we got the Undying, I opened the thing. Hey, look, it's a light mullet Keenan helm, and it's Divine's. So I immediately screenshot
Look at you all fancy.
and sent it to Avi saying, so look what dropped, since before he logged off for the night. He's like, yeah, just give up. You're never going to get it.
I was a little drunk, sorry.
Yeah, so the light mullet Kenna with a Divine Straight was pretty darn
Nice.
awesome.
That's just perfect in my eyes.
Yeah, so
Except I know you do medium, but besides that.
No, I'm light now, remember? I went to the dark
Oh.
side.
Traitor.
You gonna talk about that at
No,
all?
I'm not going to talk about it. I'm ashamed.
Enjoy your dress.
Yeah, I'm very ashamed, actually. All right, I'll talk about it. So I went full Magicka. Because
It's
damage. And while I prefer... Honestly, my biggest complaint is the fact of dual wield. That's it. Not that it's magicka, that it's dual wield. Okay? I hate dual wielding. I'd rather use my greatsword.
I agree. Dual wielding is for like 14-year-olds that really, really like the Drizzt books.
Yeah, I don't like dual wielding. And
I'm morally offended by dual wielding. No army in the history of human warfare has ever been equipped with dual wielding weapons because it's terrible and impractical.
It's just bad. But yeah, that was my major complaint. If I could actually use my greatsword, but if you use a greatsword, by the way, or one-handed, your damage is just terrible. Like 2 patches ago, greatsword was the way after you hit a certain point for magicka builds. But it is what it is. And even stamina right now, the next Dark Brotherhood, it's dual wield daggers is what it is. I like my greatsword, and unfortunately I can't use it. And I was working my butt off. I'd have to make sure my rotation was perfect, that I didn't miss weaves, and I might get somewhere in the 15 to 18k range, single target DPS. The magicka build, which I pretty much just threw together, not even all golded, by the way, went in there. I'm pulling 20k without even trying, with it getting closer to 25k when I actually do my rotation. And I don't even have all the skills I need yet. I don't have proxy debt or anything like that, which is helpful. So, yeah, I'm pulling like 23 to 25k on average with high points of mid-30s, single target. It's just insane, the disparity, how hard I had to work on stamina to get the damage versus magicka. It's just... But yeah, my main moral opposition to it is the fact I have to use dual wield.
The next step in homogenizing, opening up build diversity, is clearly just to add magicka morphs for 2-handed weapon skills.
What they need to do, honestly, I'm still following the line of all class abilities should use whatever your highest resource is.
Yeah. No,
and that way the morphs are actually unique. It's not, do I want the stamina or magicka morph? It's, what does this do versus what this does? Because it uses whatever your resources is highest. Whole other thing. But the other thing they need to do is either... I honestly think they should just remove the set bonus on the offhand. The offhand doesn't count. Or add two-handed weapons count as 2 set bonuses. So you're holding a greatsword, it counts as 2. I don't know, because that's a lot of disparity.
That's how we thought it was going to work after the preview build they showed us before the beta started, and I don't know if it used to work that way and they changed it or if we just misunderstood. But yeah, once the beta started, and it was scaling up of different stats, and it was a little disappointing.
Yeah, like all 2-handed weapons, even staves, should count as 2 for a set bonus item, because that it is honestly the set bonus. It's like, I think I was even asking, like, Alcast. I love Alcast. Sorry, if you don't follow him, he's amazing theory crafter for ESO. One of the things I was complaining about, he's like, yeah, you'll do fine DPS with a 2-hander as a stamina, but it's like you're intentionally gimping yourself, because he's like, you're losing out on a set bonus. Why would you do that? It's like you're not even using two-handed abilities.
That was like PTS feedback that I left. It's insane that dual wield gets an extra set, a set piece, and a one-handed shield. And I cannot believe that's still in game like that, because it's crazy.
And the thing is, they should look at their metrics. They know, at least in PvP, it's a little different. But in PvE, when all your magicka builds aren't even using staves, they're using dual-wield swords.
Yeah.
The metrics don't lie. Everyone's going for the set bonus because...
To be fair, we did have like a year and a half of Resto staff being top DPS weapons.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah. Maybe they'll fix it another year or so.
I don't know. I honestly, they just need to add two-handed weapons. Need to count for two, or, which most people probably wouldn't like. No one likes things taken away. They like things added. I don't think anyone would complain if they added 2 set bonuses for two-handed weapons. But people would complain if the offhand didn't count. You know what I mean? Like if,
It would be more intuitive, I think, than suddenly the offhand just not counting. I would give it that.
Yeah. whichever's in your main hand is the only set bonus that counts. People be like, what? But no, I think that if they change that, the meta might change. But no one wants to give up that set bonus, especially if that set bonus is something like Torg's pack, which gives you extra spell damage or whatever. You know, it just isn't. Video.
Oh, yes. Skype has a limit on the length. Yeah.
You could just restart your video.
Yeah.
Avi, you probably want to do the same thing. There you go. I forgot about that. Stupid
There
Skype.
we are.
There we go. Stupid
Anybody from
Skype.
Discord is watching this, please give us video support.
Yeah.
So we never have to use Skype again.
Right. But yeah, so that was pretty much my week. Magica, like I said, it's fun. I mean, I miss the stamina for the dodge rolls because I really did. Other than when I'm attacking, because puncturing sweep, of course, it heals me. I feel like I don't die, but I felt more survivable as stamina because I think when we were doing DSA, everyone was dead in my party except for me, and those guys couldn't kill. I'm like dodge rolling, healing with vigor and rally, like.
And then major mending from purifying, which is popping a few heals here and there too.
Yeah.
When I don't want to die on my stamina build, I don't die.
Yeah, you just don't die, and it's probably why it's so popular in PvP still, because you just don't die. But yeah, unfortunately, as much as I love stamina, and this is what kills me because it's my preferred playstyle, I really like it. I still want to complete stuff in the game, and I don't want to hold my group back going, I could be doing I'm honestly doing 5k more DPS than I was in stamina without even trying. Like, I mean, the disparity is insane. Like, sometimes I weave, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I don't. I let my dots run out, and I don't apply them right away, and I'm still pulling 20k versus the stamina where everything had to be perfect and I might get 18. It is what it is. All right. Let's see here. Guys, we got some emails to go through. So, Avi, I'm going to let you read these emails and 5-star reviews from iTunes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Do you have the notes up?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do. Okay. You see how he does that to me, people?
Oh, at least you knew you
doesn't
were
give me
coming on the show. I think everyone was surprised because we announced Isarii was coming on the show like a week ahead of time, and they were like, "What? You didn't give him 20 minutes like you do everyone else?" I literally invite people on the show, like I get them into the chat. Hey, you want to be on Tales? Sure. Okay, we're going live in 3, 2.
We used to do that to people on TESO cast. It was pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I need a guest. Get in here.
Get over here. Yeah, exactly. All right, Avi, continue.
Alright, from iTunes, we got a 5-star from MDK and J. I'm just going to say that because I think that's probably right. He says, really enjoy this podcast. Their enthusiasm for the game is the same enthusiasm shared by many of us in the community. Their honesty about the good and the bad elements of the game is typically an honest reflection. Elements of the game is typically an honest reflection of the game. And there is rarely something happening in the game that isn't mentioned on this podcast. A highly recommended listen. So, thank you.
There you go. Thank you so much.
And these names. A lust to listen for any ESO fan by player 82622819263. Woo!
That was fun typing that in too, by the way.
What a name. Okay, a wonderful, informative, and entertaining podcast for any ESO fan. Love you guys. Another 5-star from Susie Q Boston. You guys are great. I am a wicked ESO nerd, and when I am out and about, I listen to you guys on my podcast. Then yesterday, when servers went down, I got to watch Avi play the new Dark Brotherhood DLC on the PTS. Thanks, you guys. Keep it awesome. I remember you.
There you go.
Yeah. Thank you for the follow. Twitch.tv/Avi Optimal. Shameless plug.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Love and Tales from Lisa. Is that right?
Belicia, yeah. He's in our guild.
Belicia. Yeah. I play with them all the time, but the name. Okay. I love listening to the Tales podcast while commuting to work in my car. Aggelos and Avi Optimal reinforce in me how much I love ESO. Thanks for the great show, gentlemen. I look forward to your 200th episode.
Got a little while to go for that one. We're only on 108. But,
108? Oh, man, yeah. See you in a few years. All right, then lastly, oh my goodness. Jealous.
Do you want me to read this one?
Yeah, take this one, man.
This is from Matt. Matt writes to us, I've been meaning to send a message to you all for a while now. I'm glad I finally found the time. This is clearly something you and Avi are passionate about, and I think that is the reason why it flows as easily as it does in your show, except for this show, because it didn't flow at all. It was terrible. Additionally, it is incredibly apparent all the work that you put into planning and then I feel like I'm lying when this goes.
I know. This is not the experience I had.
Didn't I just get done saying about the 20 minutes before I pull someone? No, thank you, Matt. No, I'm just giving a hard time to us rather than you. But
this is all extemporaneous.
Yeah, he says that apparently the random mess that is Tales of Tamriel seems to have been well planned. So thank you for that. Yeah, final editing on the product. That being said, it is not lost on listeners, and I can say I enjoy it very much. Well, thank you so much for thinking that I work harder than what I do. Now, there is planning that is done. Sometimes less than, like the randomly pull stuff in. But yeah, I mean, if you look at our show now versus, a year ago, you'll see the progression as we go through. Always looking for things. I'm a PC transfer to PS4. I switched because I am pretty console-centric, and frankly, PvP is my main reason for playing the game, which has seemed to be much better on consoles. Anyway, I wanted to talk about a few things that I like about the show and a few of the things that I miss about the show. One of the things I appreciate about the show from earlier episodes was the balance that everyone brought to the show. Avi brought the single-player element, storyline side of things, and Esteldian was pretty much obsessed with endgame content. Then somewhere in between was Aggelos, who could add to just about anything anyone said. That's just because I like to talk. Pull it all out of my butt. That being said, I do think something was lost when Esteldian left. Not to say I don't enjoy the show just as much, because it arguably has gotten more entertaining. However, it was helpful when I was newish to the game to hear Aggelos and Esteldian theory crafting on the air. I completely understand why Esteldian is not on the show anymore, as it was sad to hear him emphasize each week that he didn't log in that week. But needless to say, he is missed. Matt, are you sure you're not Esteldian? Because he once had a review that was just him, and it's highly suspect anytime Esteldian's talked about in a good light on this show. Just kidding. Either way, I would definitely like to hear a bit more strategic talk about patch notes and how it will affect best-in-slot gear, moves, and classes. I know that it isn't always the most important thing to PvE when a new set comes out, because typically if something is accomplished in PvE, that's all that matters. Okay. However, typically in the PvP community, a slight edge is a massive difference. It might be just because I'm PvP centric, but there's a lot of examples of sets being introduced in every patch that show how the goals of the game makers and what parts of the game they don't like. Vicious Death, Facila's Guile. Hopefully this didn't come across as critical, because I love the show as is, emphasis added by him. It is really just a discussion of strategy is something that I miss. All the best, Matt. I do like talking theory crafting, and obviously, if you just listen to our tales, I think I went on to a rant about Magicka. So I do talk about that from a PvE side, and when it is appropriate, I will try to make Avi theory craft with me and Nate.
More guests with that.
Our guest is Isarii, and make him talk theory crafting with me.
Perfect.
Isarii was sending me messages on Discord saying, I want to make heavy armor work. Obviously, I think he gave up on that. But
for sartorial reasons entirely. I think we could see Black Rose become popular with the big buff to the return from the new Wrath passive. Yeah. I think Wrath's the one returning it.
It is, yes.
Yeah. Assuming they leave that set untouched. I couldn't get it on the PTS because they didn't give me any Telvar stones, and they didn't put it in any of the boxes in the inventories. I wanted to look at it.
There's a few
But,
things that ZOS could do for PTS testing, such as, they already give you like 100 million gold. Maybe they give you 100 million Telvar stones. Maybe they fully level werewolf and vampire.
maybe give you more inventory slots that are actually unlocked, so you can actually open the boxes.
Well, you could
Sitting there with,
technically buy them in the crown store because everything's one crown.
Oh, yeah,
store,
true.
They
I
give
could
you
just-
like 5,000 crowns.
Well, yeah, I did it with gold, but it was just annoying that I had to go to that.
Either way, okay. Matt, I will do my best to talk more theory crafting, and I do when appropriate. There was a little bit more when Estelle
Oh yeah,
was
it
here.
is the Constitution passive and not Wrath that does the return.
Yes, Constitution does it. But yeah. Thank you for your email. I'm glad you really do like the show. And yeah, I do like talking theory crafting even when I have to go Magicka. So, all right, guys, final thoughts. It's the end of the show. And I'm going to let our guest start first. So go ahead and, oh my goodness, this show's 2 hours long. How in the world did that happen? I have no idea how that happened. Anyway, sorry. Why don't you go ahead and give final thoughts to the show, do where people can find you, any kind of personal shout-outs, anything like that.
Yeah, no, I had a good time. I think we had a good talk. Good stuff, even though we didn't have a lot of topics to work with, especially given that two of us hadn't played Morrowind to talk about Vvardenfell. But the Morrowinds! Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Ethan McPhee. I write for MMO Games, Tamriel Foundry. You can find basically everything that I write that I think is worth sharing on my blog at errantpenman.com. I think that's all the plugging I need to do. I also have a Facebook page that I don't really use. It just like auto post blog things. I think like 7 people like it, so feel free to go find that. Yeah, anyway. I look forward to coming back sometime and explaining to you how business works.
There you go. Maybe next time I'll name it Business and Math, and then...
Yeah, we can come back and have more discussions of the function of equity in the business environment. That would be great.
Well, sorry, you're welcome on anytime you want. We do have that one box down there that even when Nate comes back that's empty. The only problem is you'd have to wake up.
Oh yeah, that was awful. I'm so excited to go eat breakfast.
So like I really want Isarii on more, but I have to try to convince him to wake up at like 6 in the morning to get to the show. So
Or you could postpone it. I was told that there would be European people here, and that was the reason it was so early. And
next
he's
week
gone.
he's gonna be here. So...
Oh. Damn.
Yeah. So whenever Isarii just randomly wakes up, he might get pulled in. So it happens. Avi, sir, you.
Yeah, this was a really good episode. I enjoyed it. It's great having you on, Isarii, and it was fun talking about all the crazy stuff. Half of it I didn't understand because I just play Elder Scrolls games. So, yes, it was a good time. You can find me at Avi Optimal pretty much everywhere. Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, DungeonCrawlerNetwork.com. Anywhere to find me, I'm there. And that's at Avi Optimal, AVIOPTIMAL.
I thought of something, Avi, before we finish this. We gave Isarii all this notice time, right? You know what we didn't tell him?
No, don't tell him.
Don't tell him, just see
No.
what happens.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
No, you should tell him.
All right.
Yeah, I was like,
Because
now I'm curious.
Every time I invite a guest, other than Arcaneer, he would have known this, and Gentleman Sour, they got the notice. When I end the show, I play music, and everyone mutes up. But normally, if I don't tell the guests, they just start talking. Oh, that's an awesome show, and we're not answering, and chat's just going.
And then chat room gives you a hard time.
Yeah, they do, because you're just talking. They only hear you.
Because you're talking over Maluka. So they're like, excuse me, how dare you talk over voice?
Avi, chat room says you're missing a shout out.
Shout out to Amanda.
There you go. My master.
I've heard she gives out free stuff.
I heard that too, but it's kind of like Lord of the Ringsy, where after you accept it, you're eternally bound to her.
Yeah, she said she'd own my soul, but I'm pretty sure I don't have one if I know the game's lore correctly. So
I got my soul back, and then it was taken away from me. And apparently, it was put in a box with holes for it to breathe that she covers up with Scotch tape every time I do something wrong.
Nice.
I think you've just invented a new fetish.
Apparently.
I can see that.
Well, for me, awesome show. Thank you. Sorry for coming on. We really appreciate it. Come on more often because you were fun to have on, teaching me about business and math.
Not math.
Not math. Math was mine. I like math. Anyway, you can find me in-game at Aggelos, Aggelos. You can find me on Twitter, Aggelos, Aggelos_WOF. Be sure to follow our Facebook group, facebook.com/DungeonCrawlerNetwork. Of course, you can follow us on YouTube at youtube.com/DungeonCrawlerNetwork, twitch.tv/DungeonCrawlerNetwork. Kappa is sure. We have a Facebook, or we already did Facebook, Google+, Steam. We have Steam groups, PS4 communities. We have the EU Guild, Wings of Fate. Message Arcaneer, who was on last week. He is our guild leader over there on the EU side for our EU Community Guild. Gentleman Sour is our Xbox One mega server guy. And of course, you can message me in game if you're interested in joining any of our guild events with Wings of Fate on the North American PC side as well. Thank you so much to everyone who supports us over at patreon.com/DungeonCrawlerNetwork. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will see you next week, Sundays, 10 a.m. Look at these guys. They're tired. Have a great night, everybody.
So this is where I talk if I want people to hear me instead of Maluka, right?
A serpent lights the ancient sky, a thread of tainted stars. Evil stirs, and in its wake the souls of mortals sway. And sorrow reigns over fields of red, and spirits pace through the shadows cast by their graves. These are days and nights of venom and blood. Heroes will rise as the anchors fall. Brave the strong, reclaim every soul that belongs to the beauty of dawn. Darkness strikes to blind the strong, but faith will guide our swords. Loyal hearts will stand as one and fight with shields of hope. Pride feels the deadly fire that devours our tower of gold. The drums of war